Do you feel drawn to learn more about witchcraft and the occult, but feel lost on where to start? Then welcome to Get In Loser, We're Doing Witchcraft, a podcast all about what it means to be a witch and where to get started on your journey.
Join us as we navigate through various witchy topics and share what we have learned about the craft. So get in, witches, as we explore Imbolc. Crazy story. So originally my tattoo appointment was going to be at 1:30. So I would have had to have left like 15 minutes earlier than I did because I left earlier than I needed to.
Mm-hmm.
So I probably would have left like 15 minutes earlier than I did. And Brandy messaged me and was like, hey, I have something, I have something I need to go pick up or whatever. Can we do 2:00? And I was like, yeah, no fucking problem. I'll be there too. And I left, probably 15 minutes later, got on the freeway, and it was like completely dead stop traffic. And I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's like the middle of a day.
Yeah.
There was such a bad accident. Like it was a semi and a compact car.
Oh, God.
So if I would have left earlier,
That could have been you.
Mad. Yeah. I was like, oh my God.
That sucks. Oh, I feel bad for that person, but I'm so glad that you left later than.
So looking at that car, I don't think that person made it.
That's really
like
sad.
That car was ripped completely down the middle open. So I don't know.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was really bad. Really bad. I don't know what happened, but yeah, I could have been in it or near it or
yeah.
Wild. Fucking wild.
Well,
and I told Brandy because she's not witchy, right? Mm-hmm. Like she just bought a book of runes because she wanted to learn about runes because someone got them. And she does like meditation and breath work. She's certified to do it.
Yeah.
Or she's going through the certification process to do it for other people. And she's very like, putting things out into the universe. So I told her, I was like, girl, well, I had to call her, and I was like, hey, I'm on my way, but there was an accident, so I'm running late. She's like, no problem. Like, I'm here whenever you get here. And she was like, oh, was traffic bad or something? And I told her, I was like, no, there was a really bad accident. And if I would have left earlier, that probably would have been me. And she was like, I was like, I need to go get this thing right now. Like something kept telling me, I need to go get this. I need to go get this. That's why I called you. And I was like, yeah, fucking universe, man.
Right. Thank God that somebody was pushing you because.
Yeah. She was like, it wasn't even something that I needed, but my brain was like, you need to go do this right this minute. Mm-hmm. I was like, dang, that's my wild of the week.
Oh, well, before we get started, we have some exciting news.
Yes.
Yay. So we wanted to welcome our newest Supercast subscriber, Sybil. I mean, I know like I recognize you. I don't know if you recognize me, Sybil, but I'm pretty sure we were either stationed in England together. We never met each other, but we are on some same Facebook pages in England.
Well, and I was telling Samantha when your email came through, it was like, you guys have a new subscriber. And I was like, oh my gosh, who is this person? It put your first name as your last name. So I was like, hold on. That seems familiar from our Facebook. So I was like, I'm going to go see how you pronounce it correctly. Go on the Facebook, come to find out we have a mutual friend in common because I lived in Germany for a while. So hi, Sybil.
Yes. And we're so happy to have you.
Yes. Yeah. So hopefully that doesn't sound creepy, but I did creep on your Facebook just trying to see how you pronounced your last name, which it didn't have pronunciations, but that's okay. I did find out we have a mutual friend.
Yes. And we really appreciate you supporting our baby little podcast.
We love you. And we just got your email and wow.
Yes.
The impact. We both got chills reading that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we'll email you back about that and go from there. And then maybe if you're comfortable with us sharing it on the podcast, when we have our next spooky episode, we can.
Yes, because we love ourselves a good spooky episode. So it's inevitable that we're going to have one soon. And if we can share it, just let us know. We'd love to share that story because wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Crazy.
It was pretty crazy.
Yeah. So
But
what are we
yeah,
talking about today?
we're talking about Imbolc.
Wow.
I love Imbolc.
Woo! I know. This was a fun one to research because you can go down so many rabbit holes like we were just talking about. You found one for Japan.
Yeah.
But for Imbolc, celebrations begin on the evening of February 1st and they run through the evening of February 2nd in the northern hemisphere. If you're in the southern hemisphere, that'll be August 1st and 2nd. So your time is coming.
Right. Yeah. It'll be here soon, regardless of where you live.
Soon-ish.
Ish. Yeah. Because August
Yeah.
is like still like 8 months away, but you
But
know,
it's also part of
it's
my
okay.
favorite time of the year, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I long for it too. So Imbolc is a pre-Christian holiday that's rooted in Celtic traditions, and it marks the halfway point between winter solstice, which is Yule, and the spring equinox, or Ostara. The word Imbolc comes from Old Irish, and it means in the belly. I also saw that it meant like in the belly of the mother, so I wasn't sure which one. So it's either just in the belly or in the belly of the mother. And this refers to the pregnancy and births of the spring lambs, or is it ewes? Ewes?
Yeah.
Ooze?
I think it's ooze because
Ooze.
I had a coffee cup whenever like I was a kid growing up. I mean, it was in our house. I didn't have it, but like it said, ooze not fat, ooze just fluffy.
Oh, I love that.
And so I love it. And I'll never forget that because of that.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. But again, you guys know we are in season 2. What episode is this? 43. We do our
44.
Best.
Oh my
44?
gosh. Yeah, 44.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we do
I
our
just
best.
Scheduled 43.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, we're on 44. We do our best.
We do.
We
but,
try.
You know,
we try real hard, and
struggle.
we're 2 idiots making a podcast. It's fine.
We've said it before. It's fine.
It's fine.
Imbolc is also one of the 8 Wiccan Sabbats. It's also one of the 4 main Celtic festivals and one of the 4 main Celtic fire festivals in Celtic paganism. And it's also known as Candlemas if you are Christian. And that's all I'm going to say about that. It's like irritating that like
I know.
They take things and it's not fair.
You've seen the notes, so you know.
Yes.
But I'm like,
it's
a lot
coming.
of times I'm like,
Yeah. It's also known as St. Brigid's Day. And then I also saw this reference to the meaning behind the name too. So like along with in the belly, sometimes it's been translated to an Irish Gaelic as ewes milk. And that relates back to like the fertility of the land and pastures and everything to do with animals and milk.
So I had like all of my notes done minus a couple things like correspondences, and that in particular, I had a whole page up on that. And there was a lot that I wanted to read before I added it to my notes. And then when I went back today to look, I was like, oh, Sam's already included it. It's fine.
But I found like running on the same mind.
Yeah, we always do. We find out that we always do. That's why we're great co-hosts. But I had this whole article pulled up that was talking about like milk with Imbolc and like ewes milk specifically because it's a Celtic tradition. A lot of the traditions surrounding Imbolc are Celtic, and in Ireland they have 80 billion sheep, so like everything kind of centered around like the breeding, fertility, and just birthing of new baby sheeps in spring, or whatever you call them. Is it sheeps?
Yeah, baby lambs, baby lambs, whatever they're called.
Little sheepies.
Little babies.
Yeah. So I had a whole thing that I was like reading on that, and I was like, I need to process this more before I add it to my notes. And then I saw yours and I was like, it's cool. Sam already covered it.
Sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah. And Imbolc just in general is all about the home, the hearth, and new beginnings. It's connected to farming, as we mentioned, and the earth and abundance.
So something that I came across was that the earliest documentation of Imbolc can be found in the 10th century Irish literature, wherein poetry of this time period relates the holiday to ewe's milk, like we were just talking about. And they tend to lean heavily on implications of it being a time of purification. So because of this documentation of Imbolc, speculations arose that they basically believed traditional rituals were based around the breeding cycles of sheep and the beginning of lactation. And at its core, Imbolc is a time to celebrate spring and rebirth. It's a time of banishing the winter season and sowing bountiful harvest for the next springtime. And it's when we start to see the first signs of spring through plant growth, maybe like grass coming up through the snow. And it's the return of the animals that migrate or that hibernate during the cold of winter.
Yeah, it's the first glimmer or hope of spring. And one of the first signs that is often referenced is viewing snowdrops. And I never even saw those until we moved to England. And like those little flowers are so cute and dainty.
They really are.
And just seeing them pop up like when everything else is still trying to like come back, but it's basically barren. It's so beautiful to see that. And I can see how like the ancient Celts and like all of these ancient European countries, seeing that would give them so much hope because they are just the cutest little things and reminders that spring is on its way.
Yeah, because like everything's been dead and covered in snow. And then you have this cute little plant that's just like trying to blossom its way through all of this. So
it's so cute. Yeah.
Precious. So at this point, the days are becoming longer again. It's time to like clear out the old, cleanse and purify any stagnant energy in the home or within yourself that build up over the winter and then start to feel fresh. So in pre-Christian era, the observance of Imbolc began the night before February 1st. That night, one would prepare for Brigid to visit their homes. They would craft effigies of the goddess using oat and rush bundles, and then put them in a dress and a basket overnight, which I thought was really cute. So they just craft these cute little like versions of Brigid, dress her up, and then just tuck her away for the night. Like, sleep tight, little Brigid. I thought that was precious. And then during the day of Imbolc, rituals included burning lamps and lighting bonfires to honor Brigid. And I feel like that's just a common, like, I feel like for you, you grew up in this, right? Like you grew up with a dad who was pagan. I grew up with kind of like in the closet pagan grandparents. So I feel like we did a lot of things that I didn't realize were pagan or just like rituals for these Sabbats or anything. So like you see like fire is this common theme in a lot of rituals or a lot of Sabbats or, you know, tied to a lot of gods and goddesses. So I thought that was just really cool to see that, like, hey, we're burning a lamp or we're lighting bonfires. My grandparents always had like a fire going in the fireplace for these holidays. And so it's like, for me, I always, first of all, I just love a good fire, period. Like fire in the fireplace makes me happy. I'll light a fire, sit there and read a book. But when it comes to like Christmas time, like we always have a fire going, whether it's hot in the house or not. We'll turn the air down. Like, let's make it cold so we can have a fire. So like this is like a common theme that I think that we see, that unless you realize that, I think for me, like coming into this, meeting you and learning about all these like pagan traditions, that I was like, oh my God, I do all of this. And I didn't realize that we were doing all of this. So I saw it like, especially this Christmas, as I'm like lighting a fire, I'm like, oh, look at me lighting the Yule log.
Exactly.
But it wasn't, you know, I'm not
your grandparents would be so proud.
I know. So yeah, they would, of course, just, you know, burn the lamps, light bonfires to honor Brigid. But Christianity later, in quotes, you guys can't see my notes, you can't see my fingers, but I'm quoting it. They adopted, as they call it,
they Brigid, stole it.
And I know, every time, damn Christians. And don't get me wrong, I know some Christians that are great people, but we want to talk about these traditions that we often get like, you know, snubbed and shamed for. Brigid was adopted into Christianity and Catholicism as Saint Brigid. You know, they adopted her as they do. The Catholic Church claims that Saint Brigid was a historical person and is the patron saint of Irish nuns, newborns, midwives, dairymaids, and the cattle. So the church claims that there is an account of St. Brigid's life written by monks dating back to the 8th century. These accounts share commonalities with the pagan goddess, and you can see the transition from the pagan goddess to the Christian worship through that documentation written by the monk, which, whatever. I mean, I guess at least she's getting her due diligence, but it's also frustrating. So some similarities that were noted include the association to milk, fire, and healing, which have been part of the pagan practices for all time. But, now that the Catholics took it over, she was a real person that had these ties. So it's fine. It's fine.
Right.
So Christians and Catholics also celebrate Candlemas, which Sam mentioned earlier, during Imbolc as a tradition of purification. Candlemas is it Candlemas or Candlemas?
I don't know. I
don't know.
Either one.
Okay, that works for me. I'm not Catholic. So
yeah.
Sorry if you are, and if I'm wrong, just let me know. But Candlemas is considered one of the oldest practiced Christian holidays. It's believed that if Candlemas falls on a day that's sunny and bright, that it then would result in another 40 days of winter. And this is kind of a theme that you see during this time of year in these types of beliefs and rituals and celebrations. So Groundhog Day is another one that's like this. And this is something that we celebrate or practice, I guess, in the US and Canada. And basically, this started in 1887. It's observed on February 2nd, and it's sometimes associated with Imbolc when they talk about it. But it's been called, sorry, did you hear that?
Yeah, what was that? Was that
Nick's? It's Nick's.
Sweet baby
Anthony went to go run errands, so I brought her in here so she didn't have to be in her kennel because
sweet baby. Right. Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah. So she's been sleeping this whole time, but sorry, guys.
Oh, Gizmo's in here too sleeping, so.
Oh, precious. Sweet. Look at these peppers.
Mm-hmm.
Where did I leave off? Sometimes Groundhog Day is associated with Imbolc, and it's been called by some basically a modern offshoot of Imbolc, which I don't make those ties or see it that way at all. But I found that in research and I was like, interesting, I'll include it for those that might feel that way too. But for those that don't know this tradition, like if you don't live in the US or you've never heard of it, Groundhog Day is basically a day where there's a groundhog named Punxsutawney Phil. There's been several Punxsutawney Phils over the time because obviously groundhogs aren't immortal, but every year the groundhog is named Punxsutawney Phil. So if he comes out of his burrow or his little den and he sees his shadow, it means that winter will last for another 6 weeks. Groundhog Day is believed to be adapted from a German Candlemas tradition that used a badger in place of a groundhog. Interesting, right?
That is interesting. What's funny is I like to think, because I'm trying to be more open-minded, we are really open-minded, but you know what I mean? Like sometimes it's like hard, like to, I don't know. It's just, it is what it is. No,
it's hard.
I'm not even going to get into it. But I like to believe that the person who created Groundhog Day and the German Badger Candlemas Day was actually a secret pagan, and he's just like, you know what, I'm going to show you guys. Look at y'all being pagan.
Well, it was like, where was it you? Yeah, it was you. You were talking about going through the different churches and stuff in England where they had the, is it the green god?
Yes. Yeah. The green man. Yeah.
Or green man. Sorry. Green man, horn god. It was all the same episode, but
yeah,
they built him into a lot of the churches.
Yes.
I was like, oh, I love this.
And then like walking through antique stores and stuff, they're like, oh yeah, this is like ancient, like Christian carvings that they would put. And I'm like, oh really?
It is. Oh, is it Christian? Please tell me more.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Lies.
Yeah. So a little bit more about just Brigid in general. She is one of the most respected and worshipped deities throughout the world. She's a triple goddess, And that's something I believe I have in my notes a little bit later, kind of the connection to other triple goddesses. So I'll come back to that one. But she's also a fire deity. She's linked, as we've already mentioned, to the home, hearth, and protection. She's also linked to the cauldron, kitchen, and to smiths. So the people that are working like with the anvil and the hammer and all that stuff. She's connected to Earth's rhythms and cycles, and she's known as the keeper of the sacred flame. And so this kind of ties back to lighting the bonfires, lighting candles. One way to really connect with her and I guess honor her during this time of year is to light all the candles in your home, light your hearth, and allow that fire safely to kind of connect with her. She is, again, connected to midwifery, and she's connected to healing as well. And so I got this quote from Scarlet Ravenswood, which is, a YouTuber that we have mentioned multiple times on this podcast. She's really awesome. You should check out her YouTube channel. But when she was talking about Brigid, she mentioned this, and I thought it was just the best way to put it. Throughout history, you can see, like with what Tiffany mentioned earlier, how Christianity basically stole Brigid from pagans, that she went from this powerful Celtic goddess to a demure Christian saint. And that kind of is sad in a way, because she is this powerful goddess. She's not this demure nun. So whenever we talk about her, obviously, we're going to be referring to her powerful Celtic goddess personality, not this made up Brigid that we see in Christianity. So she's always shown with a healing elixir and a blacksmith hammer. She travels with 2 oxen as her companions, a boar and a ram. So she loves all the animals.
A farm.
She travels with a farm with her. She just needs some chickens and, it's fine. Legends state that her father was Dagda, which is a primordial Irish deity and master of magic and mysticism. She is also known as the goddess of poetry, fire, and healing. She's not originally associated with just female traditional energy. She was also associated with both genders. And so she has a very multifaceted nature. Back to that whole triple goddess thing that I mentioned earlier, there is a correlation between her and Hecate from the Greek pantheon and the star goddesses called Zora, and because she has that triple form. But I love that because I have a niece named Zora, and I didn't even know that there was like a witchy type to that name. And so I love it. But the most important association is to bring on spring. She is known as the first sign of the beginning of spring. Imbolc is the first official day of spring to ancient Celts. And, she is the perfect, I guess, just overall goddess to worship during this time of year. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's crazy because that's so early. If you think about like America, we see the first day of spring being like end of March, isn't it? Like March 20th or something.
Yeah.
So like for it to be like, hey, this is the first day of spring, like historically, like back in the day, pre-Christian era, if you're really looking at it. But it is a time where you're seeing, the first grass shoots, or like you said, the little snowdrop flowers kind of thing. Those things are starting to come up at this point. And of course, the animals are waking up. You're starting to see the like breeding process of them so that they can have these spring babies that they raise throughout the summer and then that go out and do their own things for the next fall and winter. Yeah. So it just makes sense. But in America, we're like, nope, March 20th.
March 20th. Yeah. And during this type of year, it is like a great way, and we'll go into correspondences and how to celebrate, but one cool thing that you can do is weather divination. This is the perfect time of year to do that. And so this is a way to kind of like with Groundhog Day, like guessing when warm weather would return. And you could even use like tarot or other divinatory practices to kind of see when spring's going to come for you in your area. But what I saw too is that ancient Celts, what they believed was that if on Brigid's Day, on Imbolc, if it was warm or sunny, then that meant winter would, still be around for the next 4 to 6 weeks. But if it was a shitty day, that falls on Imbolc. Just like with Groundhog Day, that means spring will come sooner. And I'm just like, oh, okay. I like that. It has nothing to do with the seeing the shadow. It's all about if you have shitty weather on Imbolc, that's a great sign.
Which was, I think, Candlemas was if it was like what did I say earlier? A sunny day?
Yeah.
It was like, oh, well, you're going to have 40 or however many days of winter still.
Yeah. But that all came from Imbolc. Healing holy wells in Ireland are also associated with Brigid. And so it's very common to see people take like ritual baths for Imbolc. That's a great way to kind of connect. And
that's like my love language.
Yeah. So
give me a bath and I'm happy.
Yeah. And then also like Imbolc and just Brigid in general is not just seen by ancient Celts. I also kind of went down another rabbit hole where she is found in voodoo traditions and she's known as Maman Brigid. So in Haitian voodoo and New Orleans voodoo, she is known as a Loa. And so these are spirits who work as intermediaries between mortals and the divine. And
for those that are part of the Witchy Book Club, if you're in our supercast, you will know that Matthew calls his mom Maman.
Maman. Yeah.
Maman.
That's the French word for mother.
Yes. Every time I'm like, oh.
Yes. She's associated with death and cemeteries and fertility and motherhood, just like the Irish Celts version of Brigid. And the origins have their ties back to British colonialism, which is kind of sad, but also crazy how it just evolves. But essentially, English, Scottish, and Irish people found themselves entering into contracts of indentured servitude, and they were transported throughout the world. And many of the places that they were transported to would be the Caribbean and North America. And because they were serving as servants, many of them were also women, and they brought their traditions with them. And so Brigid was introduced to those who had been forcibly brought over from Africa as slaves. And so it just kind of evolved from there. So Maman Brigid is depicted as Mary Magdalene, and she's portrayed as fair-skinned with red hair, just like the Celtic version of Brigid. And she's a powerful Loa, and devotees often offer her rum, which I'm down for that. Like,
look, I love me a sweet spirit.
Same, yeah. And then I was reading this and I thought this was interesting. Often, like in the Caribbean and in New Orleans, the grave of the first woman buried in a cemetery is marked with a special cross and is said to belong specifically to Maman Brigid. And I thought that was sweet. So she is the consort or wife of Baron Samedi, and that is a Loa of death. Samedi also is Saturday in French, so I didn't really read into the ties with that, but I thought it was interesting.
Which you see that with a lot of Norse deities, that the days of the week correspond to the different deities. So
yeah. So I
love finding all of these like things that cross over.
Right.
Again, I do this every episode. I'm doing hand motions, like you guys can see me, but literally only Sam can do see these karate chops I'm making.
And then I make fun of her by doing it too.
Yeah. So we just are sitting here continually doing karate motions, and you guys can't see any of it.
But it's fabulous. Also, she is associated with healing STIs and fertility, as well as divine judgment.
Wow.
I know, right? Like gross, but also
thank you.
Thank you. And also she, like if you have an STI, maybe that is your divine judgment. You know what I mean?
Maybe. That would make sense.
Yeah. Especially if you were like a shitty person or something.
Yeah.
Anyway. So she's also associated with long-term illnesses. So she can step in and heal them or ease their suffering by claiming them for death. And I thought that was pretty interesting. And in the voodoo tradition, her colors that she's associated with are black and purple, and she accepts offerings of candles, black roosters, and pepper-infused rum.
You know who else likes black roosters? Satan.
Yeah.
Do you remember in the plant episode? What is it? Belladonna. If you release a black rooster, then he's like, oh, forget the belladonna. I got a black rooster over here.
Yeah.
You have that.
I'm just going to take this. Uh, so she probably gives the devil a run for his
Yeah.
money.
He's like, well, fuck. You
Yeah,
can have
I'm
it.
just gonna leave this alone.
That's your
And
rooster.
those possessed by her power are known to rub spicy rum on their genitals. I'm just gonna
That
say,
sounds
please
like
don't
it
do
would
that.
hurt.
Yeah, especially if it's like black pepper infused rum. Like,
Oh,
could you imagine?
ouch.
Yikes.
No, thank you.
Also, if you're a woman, that just is a freaking
That's
yeast
a sensitive area.
infection
It's very
or
sensitive.
urinary tract
Very,
infection waiting to happen.
yes, it's a
Please don't.
sensitive little like microbiome of its own.
Yeah, please don't
Don't
rub
mess it
that
up.
on your genitals unless
No.
like you know what you're doing, but also because I don't want to be like shaming any other cultures, but
Yeah,
I
we
just am
never
not
shame
gonna.
other people's, like, we don't yuck your yums, but that just
That
sounds painful.
it does sound painful. And then her sacred symbol is the heart, and sometimes she appears as, and sometimes her symbol appears as a cross with a black rooster on it.
Oh,
I
cute.
know, yeah. I love Maman Brigitte. And then
That works.
also, as I mentioned, that, I went kind of on a little tangent whenever researching Imbolc, and I wanted to see, like, since I live in Japan now, what they do, if they do anything. And they do, and it's related back to Imbolc. So there is a Japanese celebration called Setsuben. It occurs on February 3rd. The primary theme is cleansing the home and community of negative energy and inviting in positive energy. And so they do this by something called it's a ritual, and it's called um mamamaki. I am assuming I am saying this wrong, so I really, really apologize about that.
We're not Japanese. We try.
Yeah, yeah, we try. I don't know how to say it, but it's sound or it looks like it would be pronounced mamamaki. This is the most common purification ritual in Japan, and it's known as bean scattering. So what they would do is on Setsuban, they would toss roasted soybeans outside of their homes or at a Shinto shrine or a Buddhist temple. And sometimes someone will wear a mask depicting an oni, which is a malicious mythological creature translated as a demon, usually in English. And then others will throw the beans at the person in the oni mask, and this is to symbolically drive away evil spirits and negativity. And I thought that was really cute.
It's like a stoning, but with beans.
Yes. Get out of here, demon. And it's like, something that's not going to hurt, really, like unless you get it in the eye or something. But you're wearing that mask, so it's fine. I love that, stoning with beans. I can't even.
It's all I could think of is like, in the Bible, they're like, oh, you're a woman stoned.
Yeah, and this is like a little
Oh,
bit
you're an
nicer
oni?
stoning. Yeah,
Bean stoned.
beans,
Beaned.
beans. Have all these roasted soybeans. So often they would cry out "Oni wa soto, fuku wa uchi," and that translates to "demons out, fortune in." That's what they would say whenever they're stoning the oni with the beans. And then often there is someone with another mask on called an Odafuka. And this, of course, is probably being pronounced wrong, but the face of the mask often resembles a buttocks, a phallus, or just genitalia in general, which is lovely. But it's
just on their mask.
Yeah, it's like
I'm trying to picture this.
it's like just like the outline of it kind of resembles like a phallus shape.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like imagining a mask with like a dick sticking off.
Right, basically. Like it's like the forehead will be like super tall and elongated.
Okay. And then it'll
Or
be like
it'll look
rounded at the
like,
bottom.
yeah, or like it'll be like super rounded, like butt cheeks at the bottom, or kind of like appear like a vulva shape.
Oh my gosh.
And I love it. But that's supposed to be a symbol of luck, happiness, or fertility. And so sometimes whenever you see people with the Oni mask on, you'll also see somebody with the Oda Fuka mask on too. It's kind of that's a balance, right?
Yeah. It's really interesting too, though. Like in America, or apparently like also like old German, it was like, here's this animal. If it comes out, sees its shadow, okay, we're gonna have more like awful weather. In Japan, they're like, anyways, we're gonna bean people in the streets.
Right. Yeah. We're symbolically, we are making sure there's no negativity
Yeah.
happening. So we're just going to stone you with the beans.
With bean stonings.
Bean stones. Yeah.
We should bring those back to
We
America.
really should.
I can think
I'm
of a
here
few
for
people
it.
that need some bean stones.
Mhm. Be gone, demon. Fortune in, demons out.
Demons out. So, like we do with any other holiday or Sabbath, we're going to talk about some correspondences. So, for Imbolc, the colors are red, white, green, gold, lavender, pale pink, yellow, and any other pastels.
And when I was reading about it too, I saw that because it's like such a massive color range, it really just depends on which type of Imbolc or which variation of like Brigid you're wanting to celebrate for these correspondences. And so if you're wanting to focus on new growth or beginnings, that's when you would use like the white and the pastels. And then if you're wanting to focus more on like the fire energy surrounding Imbolc, it would be the brighter colors like the yellows, the oranges, and the reds.
I will say too, like in researching this, it was hard actually to find color correspondences because most sources that I came across just said white candles. Like overall, just use a white candle. And I was like, okay, but is white the only color for spring? Like, I feel like there's going to be others.
Yes, there's
so that
so many.
Definitely, that took a lot of digging. So if you're struggling finding that, that's probably why. So for plants, think of like potted bulbs or like seeds and seedlings because this is spring when everything's starting to sprout. And then spring flowers, things like dandelions, daffodils, tulips. We talk about a lot of beautiful plants and trees and flowers all the time. I've said this before in another plant episode that we covered, but dandelions are the most like underrated plant in witchcraft. People just look at them and they're like, oh, it's a weed. Look, I've made some beautiful wine out of dandelion. I've made some great salves out of dandelion. Dandelion has so many properties that tie to witchcraft, that tie to like herbal medicine. And then dandelion wine is just like a happy spring drink, period. Like if you've ever had it, you'll know it's like sunshine in a bottle. So don't overlook those dandelions. They are perfect for so many different things.
They really are. Yeah. And I mean, they're so abundant. Like you just don't cut your grass.
Yeah. They grow, those things can grow in concrete.
Yeah.
They're so resilient.
They really are. And then another thing that you can do too, say if you don't have space outside to plant anything, you can even just do like a little potted plants in your house in a window or something with any sort of herbs. So this could be like lavender, chamomile, basil, bay, anything like that, mint. These are all great things to plant around this time of year. And even if it is just inside your house.
And even if it's like, you know, it's too cold, which I feel like I talk about this a little bit later in like ways that you can practice, but you know, it might be too cold to plant some of this stuff outside, but you can start your seedlings indoors, let them sprout and get strong enough to survive outside. And then once the weather's warm, transfer them outside, transfer them to your garden, your flower bed, whatever it is. And then, you know, you're going to have them for the whole season.
Yeah, exactly.
So for foods, I didn't find a lot on this. I don't know if you did, but the ones that I did find, it was like oats, cakes, oat cakes, which we've talked about before on the podcast, and then milk, which we've talked about a lot on this podcast already.
Yeah, I basically found like the same thing as well.
Yeah, like I feel like a lot of episodes that we cover, you know, on the different holidays, they're like, here's all of these things, these foods, these fruits, these drinks. For Imbolc, it was literally like oat, cakes, and milk. So
I will say too, like, just because she is connected to like the cauldron, I think this would be a good time too if you wanted to make like a nice soup or something using like, and even just like a milk-based soup or something would be a great time of year to do this.
Ooh, like a cream of mushroom or potato or
yeah. And then just putting in some of like the herbs that we'll discuss in there would be great.
Yeah. Symbols I found Brigid's cross ribbons are apparently tied to Imbolc, just like a little bowed ribbon is how it was explained.
Aw.
Yeah, like they were just little tiny little bows. I was like, this is cute. And then sacred wells, white candles, fire, which we've talked about already, and corn dolls, which again, I feel like corn dolls are kind of a common symbol to a lot of the pagan holidays.
Mm-hmm. And as far as herbs, I found blackberry and coltsfoot, which I've never heard of coltsfoot before. Have you?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I had never heard of
I
it.
mean, but I feel like it's only because I'm in the Herbal Academy that I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Because that's the only place I've ever seen it. I haven't seen it like in any of the herbal groups I'm in or anything like that. So,
yeah. But then also, if you don't have access to like coltsfoot or blackberry or something, even something as simple as bay, basil, ginger are also great herb alternatives. But then also Angelica and Heather are associated with Imbolc, and I did not know about either of these two either.
I have Heather in my pantry.
Aw.
I don't think I have Angelica, but I do know of it. So,
yeah. That's really cool. And then as far as trees, they are willow and rowan. And every time I see rowan, I just think of my sweet baby Rowan from Throne of Glass. So another little bookish reference. But if you guys have not read that Throne of Glass series, please check it out because it's so good. And then let me know.
I'm still working through it. And for me, he's not a sweet baby. He's very sassy and I love him.
I love him so much.
He's so sassy at the points that I'm at.
He is my favorite bookish dude. I love him. Okay. And then for incense, this is going to be frankincense, myrrh, rosemary, cinnamon, basil, and bay. And for your crystals, we have citrine, sunstone, amethyst, acrimony, amazonite, fuchsite, turquoise, bloodstone, and garnet. Any of these would be a perfect symbol for your altar or anything, like even just to wear or to hold during this time of year as a way to honor Brigid. Sorry, my dog like jumped on my bed and I just saw like something back there and I was
something
like,
back there moving. You're like,
yeah, nobody should be in here.
I hate that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some modern day ways to practice. Today's celebrations are not as ritualistic, nor are they centered around the breeding cycles of sheep so much as they are a way to really just reconnect with nature. Brigid is still the main goddess that's tied to Imbolc today, just like in the past. So some ways that you can celebrate would be to build an altar for Imbolc, where you even dedicate it to Brigid, or using a statue of the goddess or a candle that you dedicate to her. Some other items that you can include would be candles, Brigid's crown, a Brigid's cross, corn dolls, Celtic symbols and knotwork like the little bows that I was talking about, or using any of the listed correspondences that we just went over.
As far as offerings to use, I mean, obviously milk. We've mentioned this so many times already on this podcast episode, but milk is great. Even just like filling up a glass of milk, putting it on your altar for like February 1st, February 2nd, and then putting it back into the earth or doing something else with it would be great ways to honor Brigid and celebrate Imbolc.
For two people who don't drink milk, we've talked about milk more on this podcast than I think we have in our lives.
Yeah, I hate milk so much.
I do too. I use oat milk. That's like my milk of choice.
Yeah. Well, and then you could probably even just use like whatever plant-based milk too.
Yeah.
It's better for the environment anyway. So
yeah. And it's not gross.
It's not pus.
Yeah. Ew. Gross. There's like a percentage that they allow of pus, and it's a high percentage.
It's just too much for me.
For me, no,
thank you.
My percentage of pus in my drink is like negative 175.
Yeah, exactly.
Gross. If you're like a crafty person and you like to make things, you could craft a Brigid's cross or a corn doll.
Yeah.
Which would be really cool. I am not. I will speak for Sam in this sense that she is not either, because we have tried crafting things together.
We have, and it doesn't turn out well.
No, she's very
I will
artsy.
paint it for you, but I
yeah, I was
cannot.
gonna say she's very artsy, but
I'm really bad at anything like that. No. I'm really bad at following directions. I'm really bad at all of that.
Yeah.
But if you are interested in making yourself a little Brigid cross or a Bridie doll or anything like that, you can just get a corn husk and figure it out. Like, I don't know. I didn't really look too far into it. But
well, you see them all the time, you know, like you see the
Yeah.
little corn dollies or the corn husk dolls. They're really cool. I could never do it.
Yeah, I'm not that type of a person. But if you
Me
do
either.
it, you can
We'd love to see it.
Right. Yeah. You can relate it back to what Tiffany was talking about earlier with like the ancient traditions of like they would take the doll and they would dress it up. You could dress it,
tuck it in for the
yeah,
night.
dress it up in like a little white cloth, put some flowers on it to represent spring. And it's supposed to be a great way to bring fertility and abundance into your home. So it's really cute.
That is precious. I came across this, and I don't know if you have ever heard of it, but a 7 candle ritual. And I meant to actually dig a little bit deeper, and I just completely forgot. But basically, you have 7 candles that are like, you light them. There's 7 red and white candles. So the way they wrote it, I'm not sure if it's 7 red candles and 7 white candles or 7 candles total. And this is why I was going to look it up, because it also said that each candle holds a significant meaning, with the general theme being around the element of fire and welcoming back the warmth that melts like the snow while purifying your home.
Oh,
but
wow.
I don't know if it was like 7 of each color and what those significant meanings were. I'm sure they're all tied to like Brigid and spring, like all of the correspondences and stuff that we've already talked about. But again, I forgot to look this up more. So I'm sorry, guys. But if you're interested in it, maybe look up the 7 candle ritual. And I think I found this particular, like just small amount of information on it on Spells 8, which I've talked about before on here. And it's in our show notes. So if you guys are interested, definitely look it up. If I remember, which, let's be real, my life is crazy and I'll probably forget. But if I remember, I'll try to include more on it on our socials for you guys. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. So I included it in here. You can also hold a fire feast, which essentially this is just like holding a feast with friends and family and relatives or whatever with some form of fire, like a bonfire, just lighting candles, having fire in your fireplace, or something that symbolizes fire, like maybe the colors. So just hanging out with those that you love, celebrating the coming spring, and like saying goodbye to winter essentially while eating delicious foods, maybe having like a cake or oatcakes or something with milk in it and having a good time.
Yeah, that sounds like a fun time.
Right? That's my kind of celebration. They're low key. There's not a whole lot of planning to them. Something simple.
Yeah. And then if you're in the broom closet, I saw this on HearthWitch and I love this idea. And you could do this with any sort of Sabbath or celebration, but wearing the colors of the season. So whether your clothes, makeup, socks, whatever it is, if you're in the broom closet, this is a great way. It's a simple way even, like, and it's free if you have those colors to celebrate. Also working with flowers. So like what Tiffany mentioned earlier, like the dandelions, daffodils, tulips, putting those flowers on your altar or your kitchen table, or even just making a flower crown or wearing a flower crown that you already have that might not even have any of those flowers in it, but flower crowns are also tied to this Sabbath, and I love that. And I have a few, and maybe I'll wear them. And then
you
also,
should.
Yeah, maybe I will, and then I'll take a picture and then live my best life in my flower crown.
You definitely should.
Another super easy, like in the broom closet, out of the broom closet, whichever way, to celebrate Imbolc is by writing or reading poems, because she is Brigid is associated with poetry. She's a goddess of poetry, and this is a great way to appreciate or show your appreciation for Brigid. And
so something I was just going to say, something I came across was that if you look up Imbolc, like chants or poetry, I don't know if you saw any of this in your research, there are already some that are like written that especially in like Celtic and Irish traditions, they practice this. Like for Imbolc, they'll go out and recite this poetry as they like sweep their like porch from their door down their sidewalk. If they have a driveway, they sweep it down their driveway while they're saying this like poem or chant or whatever to like ward off winter and welcome in spring. And a lot of it has to do with like Father Winter going away and like Mother Spring coming back. So I thought it was really cool. Cute. I didn't include any of it because I don't want to recite poetry on the podcast, but I thought it was worth mentioning since you brought it up. So
yeah, no, I love that. And then even if it's just reading poetry online and printing that out and then reciting it while you're doing that, that's a great way to celebrate.
So spring cleaning, which I feel like that's not just a witchy thing. Like everybody practices, like you hear everybody like, oh, I got a spring clean or whatever. Mm-hmm. This is like literally the perfect time to do some spring cleaning. So just purge all the things that you no longer need and then follow that up with a home cleansing. Open all of your doors and windows, get all the stagnant energy out. And you can do this with smoke or sound. You can also physically just sweep all that stagnant energy out your door as you go through your house.
Mm-hmm. And all of this is just a way to let go of the winter weight, clean out your old spaces. And while you're doing this, it can be great meditation to let go and accept all the new and abundant things into your life.
You can also just decorate your home for spring to welcome in the energy of the springtime. So using some of those corresponding colors and flowers, or, you know, a Brigid cross or a corn dolly, like somewhere in your home. Just something simple to decorate and just welcome spring in and, you know, bid farewell to winter. And you can also do this through a winter closing meditation or something as simple as just taking a walk in nature. And if you want to go the meditation route, again, Spells 8 has a bidding winter farewell meditation on their website that you could just listen to and follow along with.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
And then as far as the nature walk thing, just being able, I mean, this is something you can do any time of year for any Sabbath, but appreciating the cold, dark months and noticing the new beginnings. So whether that be plants, birds, anything new peeking through, but also appreciating the cold and the dark and thinking the cold and the dark and bidding it farewell. This is a great thing to do to celebrate.
You can also just prep your garden for the growing season. Like I talked about earlier, it might be, you know, too cold. It's not warm enough to actually start planting things outdoors, but you can start doing some of the prep work, whether that's like weeding your garden or, you know, planting your seedlings indoors or prepping soil mixtures, finding all your tools and your pots that you might need for when it's warm enough. You can do all of this prep work leading up to the weather being warm enough to actually start an outdoor garden.
Yeah. And you can even lay your garden tools on your altar as a way to get them charged or like purify them, imbue your intentions into them. Any of that, that's also great as well. Something that you can create is called an acorn wand, and this will work alongside your Bridie doll as the masculine energy. This is a cheap and easy craft, and you can find examples of them online. And all this is using is acorns, seasonal seeds, and nuts. And then if you have access to rowan or willow, anything like that, but just really any wood would work too. And then also a Sabbath divination. You could do this on the day of the Sabbath and then every day until the next Sabbath. You could also, if you are interested in doing Sabbath divination, the best ones are fire scrying and water scrying in a cauldron as a callback to Imbolc. Those would be the best ones to use. And then also for fire, any sort of fire magic. So lighting candles, charging sigils, burning incense, or anything related to your intentions. Using fire magic during this time of the year is a perfect way to celebrate Imbolc and give your appreciation back to Brigid. And then also creating an anointing oil with any of the herbs or other correspondences that we have listed. This is a great way to also celebrate as well. And you can anoint your candles, you can use it in spell work, whatever you want to do. If you have a kitchen altar or you work with any sort of kitchen magic, anything like that. So having that feast, creating your magical food, imbuing your energy into your cooking, all of that is just a really easy in the closet and out of the closet way to celebrate.
Yeah, I love kitchen magic, especially for those that are in the broom closet, because you can use so many different correspondences in your food, stirring intentions in or out. There's just so many different things that you can do that wouldn't seem out of the ordinary if you're not out of the broom closet, So.
There's so many things. And then also I wanted to mention real fast, I forgot to include this in the notes, but in our resources for this episode, we have listed a YouTube video if you want to make your own Brigid's cross. So there's like a YouTube video on how to do it if you are that crafty person. And it's in there if you want to do it. So
perfect.
Yeah.
Again, we're not the crafty people, so you're not going to see our fancy Brigid's cross on the social medias there. But
no,
if you make them, we love to see them. I
yes.
wish I was that type of crafty person.
Me too. So please tag us if
yes.
you do, or any sort of Brigid celebration. If you're comfortable tagging us in your celebrations, we would love to see how you celebrate.
We'd be your biggest hype man in the background. So we love seeing it. We're just not crafty people. So
yes. That's it for this episode of Get In Loser, We're Doing Witchcraft. You can find our source material for this episode linked in the show notes. If you love this episode, we would be forever thankful if you leave us a 5-star review on wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you really love the show and want more Get In Loser content, check out our Supercast link provided in the show notes or search the Supercast website for Get In Loser, We're Doing Witchcraft. There you can purchase a membership to our podcast and obtain exclusives, like getting episodes early, shoutouts on the show, access to our Ask Me Anything forum, our monthly newsletter, a promo code for merchandise, and more.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Get In Witches, or email us at we'redoingwitchcraft@gmail.com. Check us out next week for our episode all about sleep paralysis and nightmares. Oh my. Until then, blessed be, witches.